Get ready for today's wild entitled parent stories. Story 1. My mom came home to me cleaning the house, and she still had something to criticize. When she came back, I was halfway through cleaning the kitchen. She asked me what I was going to do for the rest of the day. I told her that I'm gonna spend most of the day applying to grad school. She then asked me about my essays. She asked me if they were good, because I wrote an essay a few weeks ago and I wasn't the best, and she was kind of criticizing me about it. The thing is, she and I have already had a conversation about it. And it just annoys me because it's like I'm trying to be helpful to her, and she still is like critical of me. Story 2. Being bad-mouthed to the rest of the family for issues with parents. Basically the title. I've had recent issues with a parent because I'm growing up and me changing in terms of what I want to share with them is deemed bad and I should go back to how I was before, which was constantly second-guessing everything I said and did so as to not disrupt the whole family because what one person feels we're all supposed to feel. My family is enmeshed. Well, now that I'm setting boundaries after respectfully trying to explain why I feel the way I do, my younger sister and grandparents are being relayed my private conversations with my parents and I'm being accused of not caring about them anymore. Obviously, what was said by my parents is being conveniently left out of the story, like threats to cut me off and that they would take back some things they've done for me. Now I've got my sister barely talking to me because she's confused as to who I am because what she's being told contradicts many things I've done for her and my family over the years, but she's in deep so she sees no issue with e.g. sharing part of what's going on with my very elderly grandparents who are now worried and called me privately to ask WTF is going on and why am I drifting away. Do I just let it go and hope they come to their senses when they talk to me about it? Do I confront my parent about it? I've tried to explain how inappropriate it is to spread criticism about me to people who aren't directly involved, but I'm not heard. I've refrained from sharing hurtful things I've been told because I don't think it's fair to air dirty laundry like that and I'm not trying to get to my parent through anyone else. Story 3. My mom's a lazy narcissistic pos hoarder. Red post. So I'm very upset right now. Take this as more of a vent I guess. I live in an apartment complex, meaning we have little fucking space and my own mother keeps dragging shit in. We're due to move apartments in March-April, I don't know anymore, the date keeps changing ATP, I think she's just lying. She has shit everywhere, all over the house. The living room isn't even a living room, it's a fucking hoard room of things she's going to sell. She never sells shit. And she's been hoarding her ugly fucking clothes in my closet. My closet is already cluttered, and she has an entire room closet. Mine's small, compact and not able to fit much. Plus my room's a victim of the hoarding, she just adds shit that she can't keep in the living room into my room. I can't even clean it and I've given up trying. She recently asked me to empty my drawers because we'd be moving my bureau and getting a new one. That was 3 days ago. My clothes are going in a trash bag and I don't even care if they get thrown out at this point because guess what? I don't have anywhere to put the fucking clothes. So thankful I'm in split custody so I don't have to live with this absolute dogshit 24/7. Now I'm sitting here just pissed, thinking about screaming at her and telling her off because I'm so fucking tired of having to live in her hoard of shit. Not to mention even when I do my absolute fucking best to clean, it's never good enough. It's never FKN good enough and I don't think it ever will be. It's ruined my self-esteem to where I just don't even want to bother doing anything. I slave around for this woman 25/8 doing the dog, cleaning her dishes, cleaning her mess that she made. I'd at least like a proper thank you or some kind of payment as it often leaves me sore and tired for the rest of the day. I potentially have issues with my legs due to development issues, so that makes it 10x more fun, and feel underappreciated for everything I do. Even if I ask, hey I did all of this, do you think we could get dinner out or something? She asks me to pay. I can't even afford anything because if I did get a job she'd drive me there late or complain that it's too far. I don't have my license yet due to just overall stress and road anxiety, but I'm trying my best to get it. I'm actually just so tired of being her personal slave. It's caused me to turn to nightly stoner nights where I just smoke and lay down, debating if it's even worth it anymore. She wouldn't even care if I did fuck my lungs up because of it. I've been inhaling her backhand smoke for all 18 years of my life. I tell her that I don't feel appreciated and she just tells me that, oh I love you so much. No. No you fucking don't. You only love me because my existence gives you free money, same with my father. You only love me because it gives you a fucking excuse to sit on your ass and do nothing all day. Seriously, I'm tired of slaving around. I'm tired of being underappreciated, sorry for the huge dump. I just needed to get it out before it all turned to personal anger and shit. Sighs loudly. Okay, bye, back to cleaning. Story 4. They want me to be telepathic about responsibilities. Hello, I'm 23F from India, and all the reasons why Thai sub exists are in my parents. I live at home full time. Yeah, it's relevant. This has happened multiple times now and I'm simply tired of it. I try to ignore it, but it's so frustrating. Recently my mom got laparoscopy and I've been doing what I'm told and taking more responsibility, but whatever I do it's not enough. My parents keep telling me to do it myself, without being asked to, but how am I supposed to know what to do? And that's what I told them: you're getting the work, the job is being done, what's the fuss? But they keep repeating the same thing, and my dad went so far as to say I have to be telepathic about the responsibilities. I mean, people even tell their maid what to do. How am I supposed to be a psychic? They just think that just 'cause I'm the older daughter I'm supposed to be a psychic maid. My mom has done most of the household work. We also have a maid, and I've been trying my best to follow her direction, but why are they just not satisfied? I told her to tell what needs to be done and it seems she'd rather just taunt me and belittle me instead. I'm trying my best to ignore this, but if anyone has any other good tips I can use. Story 5. My mother wants $100 from a dead man. A bit of a dramatic title, but it's unfortunately true. My mother is all around a wonderful woman. That doesn't keep her from being hard-headed and a stubborn son of a bitch, creating stupid arguments and sticking to her guns no matter how many times you explain that she's wrong. She passed that trait on to me, which means we butt heads every once in a while. This is one of those times. Keep in mind that this story was relayed to me over the course of my childhood. In the year of 2004, my parents announced their second pregnancy. My paternal grandfather, Bob, had 5 grandsons at this point, spread across his 3 kids. Since this would be the last baby of the generation, he pulled my mom aside and told her he'd give her $100 if she could give him his first granddaughter. Obviously, if she was going to give birth anyway, it was a done deal. Fast forward and my mom gives birth to me and my twin sister, 2 fraternal baby girls. The first time my granddad visits her and his new granddaughters, he gives my mom a shiny $100 bill. She gets offended and tells him that this wasn't what they agreed upon. She gave him 2 granddaughters, so surely that means he owes her $200 instead of the original $100. She had done double the work. The kids she had just popped out were assholes. From here the argument gets blurry. Because the story was recounted to me by my mom, a biased commentary, I only ever heard her side of the argument. I was told that they bickered about it, until the day he died, when I was about 4. When I grew old enough to understand the situation, I began arguing with my mom on my grandpa Bob's behalf. Here's how I see it. Deal was laid out as, you're currently pregnant. If this is my first granddaughter, I'll give you $100. Her end of the deal was delivered when she delivered. Hey, the first granddaughter, and his obligations were fulfilled when he, true to his word, gave her the $100 bill. It stops and starts at the first granddaughter. Regardless, my mom swears up and down to this day, nearly 20 years later, that her father-in-law stiffed her years ago and she just cannot get over it. Every time I think I've argued her into the ground in front of others and she agrees I'm right, the next time it comes up she acts like the previous discussion never happened and suddenly the argument begins again. My current argument is that because I'm now a trans man, and he only truly ever had one granddaughter, my sister, my mom was still compensated the correct amount for the one girl she delivered. I think I win, lol. I don't remember my granddad, but he seemed like a good guy and I'm proud that he stuck it to my mom until she couldn't reach him anymore. I am happily carrying on his legacy of not letting my mom get away with dumb shit. Story 6. My mother keeps changing her departure dates. For context, I, 36 nitrogen monoboride, and my husband, 42M, live in a small apartment in a major city. I've been on mental health leave from my job for the last 3 months, and we're in the process of packing up our apartment to move due to rent increases. Our home has always been a little safe haven away from external stress. My mother, 62F, lives a 7-hour drive north in a small country town, but travels frequently for work, business owner. We live near an international airport, so she often uses us as an airport hotel. Last month, she asked if it was possible to stay with my husband and I for a period of 5 days, arriving Thursday, departing Monday, due to client meetings in the city. I told her that was fine but made it clear that I already had a busy calendar, social events, university study, back-to-work meetings, packing house. I knew it would be a tricky situation as my mother is extremely extroverted boomer, and my husband and I are introverted nerds. When she visits, it's a constant barrage of, let's go do something. Given my mental health, it's hard most days for me to even get out of bed. I'm also 3 weeks into new antidepressants and still adjusting to the side effects. She's aware of this, but not that I've been on leave, because her opinion of mental health has always been, smile and shake it off. Last night after I just returned from a concert, she advised me that she planned to stay an extra day due to meeting reschedules. She didn't ask. When I brought up that I wasn't happy as the original plan was for her to leave Monday, she got quite upset and said, I said probably leaving Monday. This led to me trying to express that I already have a lot of things on my plate, which she challenged and then accused me of kicking her out. This is frankly a common occurrence when she rewrites discussions that we've had, and feels entitled to stay with us this morning. I've woken up to a cold message that she's going to book herself into a hotel as she still has a lot of work to do. I can't help but feel incredibly guilty and upset, but she's now refusing to talk to me calmly. I don't know how to respond to this. Story 7. My mom pressures me to introduce my boyfriend to her, but I don't want to. Firstly, I would like to say that I genuinely do love my mom. She supported me in almost everything, was there for me during my recent hard times, so I do not hate her nor do I have any reason to. I am 22 years old, about to turn 23, but ever since I was little, I was very shamed for everything by my family, my looks, what I enjoyed to eat, when I would get sweat stains on my shirt, my private journal that they found, my toys etc., including my mom, and I feel like I grew up to be extremely private and secretive, avoiding any chance to get shamed again at all costs by rarely, if ever, sharing details about my personal life, what I like etc. My mom has a habit of judging people extremely harsh and always finding a flaw in somebody. We could be walking on the street, a gorgeous girl passing us, and if I mentioned to her, wow, she's pretty, she would say, yeah, I don't know. Her thighs are kind of big, and her hair is so thin, and her dress is ugly. The worst part is she does it to my friends as well. I'll show her a group picture, she'll start judging every single thing about everyone in that picture. She will make mean remarks to the face of my closest friends, that she'd met plenty of times, such as mentioning so many times how wrong a certain makeup looks on my friend's face. I still live with her, even though my biggest wish since I was a teenager has been to move out. I simply can't afford anything else right now, being a student. Because of this, I had always hidden every boy I've dated from my parents. Especially my mom. When she did find out about somebody, she would not hesitate to denigrate him as much as she could to my face. He could be the most gorgeous guy, she would always overly point out every small thing that she finds as a flaw. When she won't point out their looks, she'll find the smallest detail about their personality, over-exaggerate it and make it seem like they're such a loser. For example, I would plan a vacation with a partner. She would say all his suggestions are shitty and we are very boring people, and these were plans for trips to Marbella, Capri, Sardegna etc. I have been dating my current boyfriend for a year and a half now. She found out when we were 2 months into our relationship, and ever since then she mentions how he's impolite and rude for not coming to meet her. It's not like he's a complete stranger to her. My brother and him were friends for many years and they often hang out in the same group of friends. After a couple of months, whilst she constantly pressured me, I mentioned to her that I don't view meeting the parents as necessary right now, that I am old enough to decide my life with someone for myself, and if it were to get to the point of being engaged with somebody, then yes, surely she would meet them. She got very angry and said that this is not normal, that she will always need to meet them way before it gets to that point, that she finds it rude of me to hide them from her. I did not elaborate on why I'm doing it, but she did not stop complaining about not having met him. I simply do not want to hear her harsh, rude and aggressive judging about my partner like she did with every partner or friend from the past. I do not want to give her the opportunity to mock a thing about him to his face. Am I in the wrong here? Is it really that wrong to wait for things to be very serious, like engagement, until someone gets to meet my parents? Story 8. Parents won't let me, M27, move out of the house. I have an issue with my parents being really unsupportive about me moving out. My mom especially wants me to live in the same city as her, otherwise she won't accept it. I got an offer to see an apartment I really liked, and both my parents and sister just nagged the entire time about one single issue. The apartment doesn't have a lift. My apartment would be on the D floor, which is 4 floors up, but it's really not an issue for me. When I tried to ask them for feedback about the apartment itself, They stayed negative but agreed that it was a good place. Fast forward 4 hours after visiting, my mom had a complete meltdown and tried to emotionally manipulate me into staying at her house, telling me she would drink poison or run in front of a car and kill herself. It's 3:18 in the morning as I'm writing this, and I'm all messed up in the head. I can't sleep or drink anything, and I'm constantly thinking about this apartment because it's in an amazing city with so many necessities close by. Like the highway is just 3 minutes away, the central station, shopping center, etc. For me, it looks like a dream come true apartment, but my mom is mentally abusing me. I'm really not okay right now. I don't want to stay even more because of her abuse, and she doesn't even realize it. After the meltdown, she ended it by saying that if I leave the house, she only has 3 kids and won't recognize me as the 4th anymore. I got mad and left the living room, went upstairs, put my jeans on, grabbed my car keys, and went outside to go for a drive. She came out of the house, followed me outside to my car, crying and wheezing hysterically. We talked in my car, and I ended up succumbing to her cries and emotional abuse once again. We went inside and watched a movie together as a family, but my mind is still not in the right space. Even while typing this, I have chest pain and a fast heart rate. She talked in the car about how she is afraid of my dad and feels like if I stay close by, I can protect her. As if the city I'm potentially moving to isn't only 10 minutes away by car and 20 minutes by train. I feel like I'm in jail, and she never wants me to leave the house, even if I get married, etc. I have a girlfriend, and I want to start something together as a team, not live in this house anymore. My room is so bad, and I want to grow as a person. I feel like I'm chained, and my mom is dragging me down further and further. I need advice because my whole family is against me. I need to tell you one thing. I come from a Muslim household, so there's that. But I just don't want to be here anymore or even live anymore. Story 9. My parents made my sister and I do loads of manual labor during 2020 to pay them back, because they gave us free room and board. It's taken me a while to confront how bad this situation really was. I've mulled over it so many times, and even now, I still wonder if I might be the one in the wrong. But many people I've talked to about this have agreed that this was messed up for my parents to do. I'll try to keep it as brief as I can, but there is a lot of context. I was in university when lockdown started in 2020-21. My younger sister graduated during 2020-18, and the youngest was in elementary school, 8. My older sister, 24, was engaged, and still got married in the summer. I worked a job on campus to pay for university that I lost due to lockdown. Having no income, once my savings ran out I was forced to move back home with my parents. My stepdad kept his job thanks to being moved to virtual. And my mom had just finished getting a graphic design degree. Thanks to all this, my parents suddenly had a lot more money. So they decided to move out of state. We were in awe at the time, citing that they wanted to get away from all the liberals. Luckily for my stepdad, his job then asked him to move to Texas. My parents wanted to sell the house by the end of October, and they decided this in August. The house had about 10 years worth of neglected projects that they now wanted to do in 2 months. Less than, my older sister's wedding was in August. She kept it small, and we followed the proper regulations. But that meant we couldn't start on the house until mid-August. My younger sister and I were working manual labor jobs to earn money for collage. I worked on a farm, as that was the only job I could get at the time. And my sister was a cleaner for some rich people in the area. My parents were fully aware of the jobs we had. No more than a week after my sister's wedding, projects on the house commenced. We had to fix up the backyard, repaint most of the inside and outside of the house, declutter, shampooed every carpet, and so much more. I would get up at 6 a.m., go to work, pull weeds out in the August and September sun until 4 p.m., then I was expected to come home and get straight to work on the house. No breaks. My younger sister was the same. We would work until 9 p.m. most weekdays. Then our Saturdays from 9 a.m. to usually 8 p.m. we were working. And even on Sundays we would come home from church and get straight to work until 8 p.m. We were working around the clock. I was not able to get as many hours as I needed to earn even close to what I needed because of my parents' expectations. Luckily my sister's job paid her really well. But I wasn't so lucky. After only 2 weeks, I needed something to change. I physically could not keep up with this workload. So, I decided to talk to my parents about it. My younger sister joined me. We tried to explain how tired we were, and how we just needed a break for a bit. But my mom would not hear it. All she heard was, We are lazy and don't want to help. My mom turned into a ragging monster, screaming at us, telling us she was doing so much, working her butt off every day. And we hardly lifted a finger. Meanwhile, I would come home from work, covered in mud, to her binging Supernatural. And could tell she'd watched many episodes that day because I was the one that introduced it to her after watching it myself. And she'd just be sitting on the couch, doing nothing. Then she threatened to kick us out if we didn't help, knowing full well there was nowhere to go because of lockdown. After that, she stormed to her room and slammed the door. My stepdad heard the commotion and heard my mom's side of the story first, and came down and berated my sister and I for being lazy and ungrateful, and laid down the law. We had to keep up the amount of work we were doing or leave. But he was so gracious to give us a 30-minute break after coming home from our jobs. I think now is a great time to point out that the room they were so graciously letting my live in was the craft study room. It was a communal room. Correction, I had a bed in this room. The rest of the room was not mine to use. I had zero privacy. I had to get changed in the bathroom most of the time because people would just walk in whenever. And I had half of a 3 by 5 foot closet and half of the communal coat closet to store my belongings. But they were being so generous for letting me live there. I owed them anything they asked for. Yeah, needless to say, after another week of this grueling work, I had to make the decision to quit my job. My younger sister followed suit about a week or so later. And naturally, now that we had more free time, my parents swooped in and increased our workloads. Now it was 12-hour days aside from Sunday, where Sunday was 6-ish. Finally in October, it was time to put the house on the market. And we could finally rest. The house sold for almost $100K more than the originally estimate before the work we'd done. And less than a month later, we had to pack the whole house and clean it. So for another month, we pulled 12-hour days, sorting things and packing boxes. Once we finally moved out, my parents dropped my sister and I's stuff in the Collage town on their way down to Texas, which my sister and I helped them drive the 2 cars, packed to the brim with stuff. In Texas, my parents rented as 2-bedroom Airbnb for 5 adults, 1 child, 2 cats, and 2 dogs. My brother and his dog came to stay with us for Christmas. While there I finally sat down and confronted my financial situation. I had just enough to cover rent for a semester, but not tuition thanks to having to quit early. I talked to my parents about this, and they told me, sounds like a you problem. So I ended up having to pull out loans to pay for the next few semesters until I got my job back. Meanwhile, my parents bought themselves new cars and new furniture for their new house off the money we helped them earn. Yes, I could have stayed with them and gotten another job and just took a semester off. But they moved to a super rural area with no jobs near them, and they were toxic as crap. I would rather go into debt than live with them ever again. But on the bright side, I do believe in karma, or that God does his job in subtle ways. Whichever you prefer. My stepdad got himself a better job for a year after, then got himself fired because he stole some monitors from a job site. It took him about 6 months to get a new job, and had to take a pay cut. Now they are having to sell their new house again, without my sister and I's help. My youngest sister is pretty good at getting out of helping, so now they really do have to do everything themselves this time. Yay! Story 10. My dad has total control over my life, and I can't stop him. My dad controls everything in my life, where I go, what I do, who I talk to. I am 16 and have learned how to keep secrets. Luckily I've gotten a bit more privacy as I've gotten older and I use incognito so he doesn't know about my double internet life. However, I currently need to vent. He controls how I look and I hate that. It's not just no tank tops or tattoos, but also mismatched clothes. I like mismatching my clothes, but sometimes, if he notices my clothes don't match, he will make me change to look presentable. I am also forced to brush my curly hair in the morning even though brushing curly hair damages it. He doesn't care because it makes your hair look nice. It loosens my curls and makes it frizzy, yet I guess it looks better than my curly hair that sticks up sometimes to him, despite damaging it. He has also criticized my appearance before, saying how he doesn't like me having just one ear piercing. Since I've stopped wearing earrings, he's let the issue go, but he used to try and pressure me into getting my other ear pierced before. He said he doesn't like it and I should get my other ear pierced. I'm also not allowed to wear shorts, any shorts. Unless I'm swimming, I'm not allowed to wear anything that shows stomach ever, even when swimming. I'm lucky he didn't ban leggings because he did come close to, but just decided to let me wear them, though he still doesn't like that I wear leggings. His control extends beyond clothing, but I think I've vented for enough today. Story 11. My mom is mad that I feel uncomfortable about helping her in certain ways when she gets older. My mom always had medical problems resulting into surgeries if it's for her shoulder, back, knee. Those are the ones I can remember, but I think there's more. It was always very intense, like having to help my mom get dressed and do stuff for her. I don't mind helping her do stuff, but the getting dressed part one always felt uncomfortable with. I'm not the best person at this type of stuff. My mom might be getting a hip replacement soon. She said that she needs my help, but thing is I'll be visiting my husband in April and August in South Korea, so I won't be home. My dad will be home to help, but I don't know if that's enough. I suggested to my mom how about a rehab facility. She said if the doctor doesn't mention it she won't bring it up, and she expressed to me she doesn't want to go when her family can take care of her. I told her I understand, but the people who work at rehabs can help more in a professional way that myself nor my dad knows how to help in that way. I also used to have back problems, so to this day I'm very careful and I don't want to physically put myself in any type of situation that can hurt my back. Really, I'm not in any good physical condition to help her. I'm not trying to sound, oh poor me, but besides a history with a bad back, I'm only 4 feet 11 and weigh 117. I'm not in the best condition to help her the way she would need help. My mom also said if it was me she would help me because that's what family is for. I told her that I don't expect anyone to help me if I had a medical procedure done, and I rather get medical help. Because trained professionals can help me recover more than my mom or dad could. Over dinner my mom was telling me about her hip replacement and she needs my help. I told her I'm not comfortable taking care of her when there's medical professionals that can take care of her. I suggested rehab or a nurse that comes to the house. She said, then what happens when I get older? Are you going to send me to a nursing home? And I said, if I find that it would be better fit and if there's some way I can't take care of you, then it's something to figure out then. She wasn't happy at all and said that as her daughter I should feel comfortable bathing her and helping her get change. I told her I have every right not to feel comfortable, and it led into an argument. She insisted that this is a part of life and daughters are happy to take care of their mothers, and I said everyone is different. I said to her that she sent her mom to a nursing home and she said the nursing home killed her mother and it's all a rat hole. I said they aren't all like that and maybe grandma died from other reasons. She then threw it back at me and said, I can't believe I have such a mean, horrible daughter. I went completely quiet and said, you have a son too, how is he going to help? She said it's the daughter's responsibility to help and doesn't expect my brother to do this stuff. For some background, my husband is in South Korea as we're waiting for a visa that takes 1.5 years. I could have moved to South Korea, but I felt like life would be better here, but also with guilt from my parents I thought life would be better here. During the argument I said, I should have moved to South Korea. My mom continued to scream and told me not to threaten her with that. But really I gave up being with my husband in South Korea to live this life? I have a history with depression and I don't want to get into how deep it is. I'm not looking for, oh poor me, but I went to my room and I overheard my mom telling my dad to check on me in case something happened. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. A part of me was hoping my dad would open the door to see if I was okay, but I guess I'm completely wrong to assume that. It's like we're not even at this point of life yet where she's old and needs this stuff. Yeah, she's in bad physical health, but she's only 65. I don't know what to do if I'm wrong for any of this. I can't believe I gave up being with my husband and only see him 3 times a year for this. I don't know why my brother is excused from this, but I'm expected to be the helpful for suggesting to my mom she should go to rehab after a medical procedure? Story 12. Dad angry that I can't support him. I usually don't do these. But I'm realizing after 26 years of my life that my dad feels really entitled to everything. I've never been able to understand why he feels everything has to go his way or he gets upset. This one recent occurrence I've had is that my mom just passed, and basically because my parents weren't prepared, my dad is losing a lot of things right now. He can't afford the house, the cars need to be fixed and are in the shop, he working a lower paying job just to have income, credit bad, etc. Basically he's in a bad situation. I've been helping every way I can while my mom was dying and after her passing. Buying groceries, taking my dad to appointments, checking in on my dad, visiting to make sure everything's good. On top of my grief, my job in a precarious state due to budget issues and having to move soon since my lease is ending, I'm still trying to make sure he's good because my mom did everything for him. This brings me to my story. My dad asks if he can borrow my car. I was hesitant because my dad isn't very communicative and it's hard to speak to him because sometimes he gets defensive if he's being questioned. I told him he could use my car for 2 days, but after that I need it for myself and he needs to figure something out. I even offer that he can get a rental car. He says maybe I can help him with that too since his credit is bad and he doesn't think he can rent a car. Immediately I'm like, why does he keep asking me for more and more? A few weeks ago I gave him $800 for gas and groceries, etc. because his check was short due to health issues and he couldn't work. He said he'd pay me back when his next check comes, but that didn't happen. I didn't expect it to because he needed the money for a reason. He doesn't have it, so on top of having him borrow money and use my car, he wants me to front a rental. I put my foot down and told him I couldn't help him with the rental and he said it's fine, I'll pay for it. He gives me back my car and says can I take him to the rental place. I say yes, but I have a feeling he's gonna ask me to go in with him and somehow ask me to pay again. Guess what he does? The rental was too much money and he didn't have it in his account and can't use a credit card due to his credit. I just reiterate that I have my own expenses and can't help. Long story short, we leave without a rental and he starts saying that I never help him. I immediately tell him how much I've helped him in the last few weeks and it's been a lot. Then he flips out and says that now after everything he's done for me now I can't help him with this one thing. I told him how far does this go? The help doesn't stop here. He starts going in on how he didn't realize that he was putting me out and that I need to take him home since I'm not gonna help. He yelling about how I'm complaining and he's down bad. I explain I have my own issues going on. His narrative is not the only narrative that's true. As he puts all the blame on me for why he doesn't have a car, we arrive at his house and he slams my car door and then slams the front door of the house. He basically had an entire tantrum. I couldn't believe it. He really expected me to feel guilty when he acted like that. Anyways, now I'm realizing he felt entitled to my help because I'm his child and he tried to guilt me into helping knowing that I care about his well-being. I feel like my eyes have been opened for the first time. I just thought my dad was easily frustrated. I didn't realize it was entitlement. Any advice on how to deal with this? He's not gonna bring it up or apologize. He's gonna act like it didn't happen. Then when I bring it up, he's gonna say it wasn't a big deal. Also, he ended up being able to get rental by himself anyways after I dropped him off. So he acted like that for nothing. Ridiculous update. I should preface, as my mom was passing at the latter end of the year, I was helping out because we were in a bad position as a family, so it was my choice to buy groceries a few times, be there to take care of my mom, and drive her and my dad when he had surgery after my mom's passing. This is the worst that's happened to us in all of our entire lives. I wanted to make sure everyone had a little food when we were taking care of her around the clock. My dad didn't ask me for anything a few months after her passing. He was saying I did enough, but now that he's in a really bad position again with more things falling apart, I do feel like he's depending on just me a lot. I can't be his sole helper, especially since some things have started to be less stable for me. Story 13. Dad controlling my life. Senior year is closing. I know my dad has his reasons. It's February and my dad is upset about me not knowing everything. Yesterday, he lectured me and complained about me leaving my piano. I told him that it was demotivating, continued to talk to me like piano is a life requirement and I won't impress anyone in parties if I don't do piano. Then he talks to me about how my mom wants me to do nursing, and yet he's trying to drive me to engineering. I keep trying to reason things out with him and he keeps saying, I don't care. Today, he got upset at me for not knowing when the library closed, and yet I tried to tell him that no one knew cause no one updated the bulletin. And yet he keeps scolding me, telling me how I have to take note of everything, like when the janitor comes in, when the vice principal comes in, etc. Basically mind everyone's business. He also told me to finish 80 books and scolds me if I don't finish a book in a week, and I keep telling him that I can't just skim through a book and finish it in a day cause then I wouldn't absorb any information. He keeps letting me focus more on STEM subjects, but when he asks me history questions, he keeps shaming me for not knowing even though he never set me a time to study for history. If I forget something, he'd scold me for an hour. Can't say all details because I'm exhausted, but I hope some of you will understand. I am not allowed to work yet. I am 17, and they said they also want to allow me to live in dorms or live somewhere else. My grades are dropping due to me procrastinating a lot. Bekwase homework gives me anxiety the moment I start doing it, and I get reminded how I have to be so perfect in every answer, otherwise my parents would yell at me even for one wrong answer. I lied to them for years apt my grades because they'd argue or punish me for it, not caring apt the reason, and they'd threaten me not to go to school. They said it's for my own good. I am practically suffering RN from either anxiety or depression. I also suffer from codependency. Every time my father scolds me, I end up thinking apt suicidal thoughts. My counselor want help because then they tell child support services, then notify parents, and the abuse gets stronger. Couldn't handle seeing my boss after school. Always going to his car with this wretched gut feeling. My dad kept reminding me how in preschool I always cried and had complained how I don't listen to him, and I keep telling him I cried because I couldn't handle being away from him for so long to the point it feels like I want to see him again, but he keeps telling me otherwise. I don't think I am going to live to see my graduation. Story 14. Does having an EM make you entitled? Maybe I am being entitled here, or maybe I'm just so used to my M's behavior and my role in her life that I can't deal with her being entitled anymore without feeling like I'm at fault and that I clearly must be being entitled too. The context. Myself, 27, my sister, 25, my sister's boyfriend, 25, and my sister's boyfriend's sister, 24, all live with my parents, 60-ish. The 5 of them live in the main house on the property, and I rent a small shed in the backyard that's been modified to be my own little tiny home. Me and my parents don't get along when we're under the same roof, so this was best. We all pay our rent, and compared to the cost of living crisis out there, it's incredibly affordable, and they still make around an extra $500 plus bills a week from us on top of the income they have from the business my mother owns and my dad's full-time trade he's been working his whole life. The problem? My partner has been staying with me after losing his home over Christmas. We keep to ourselves and are respectful. My parents had stated when I moved in about 1 to 2 years ago if he was ever to stay over for 3 or more nights in a week I needed to pay them an extra 50% of my rent. I've been paying the extra rent since he came to stay, but it's left me a little tight financially, so feeling courageous this morning I went to say hi to my mom when she took her dog to the toilet this morning. This is where I fucked up. She hadn't even known he was staying, and there I was making the mistake of asking if I could have the next week off from the extra rent portion so I could catch up on groceries and be ready for uni, which goes back Monday and I don't even have a notebook for yet. So of course, rather than showing me any compassion, I thought I asked really nicely too. She informed me that I needed to be paying double the rent for my shed if he was staying here. Like I would understand if money was tight or something, but it just gave me a super entitled and controlling vibe. Because I was sharing my space that I pay for with my partner, who would otherwise be homeless, she feels entitled to more money from me when I'm already struggling to make ends meet. Yes, I did ask to skip the extra rent portion because I need to, but I know I'm not entitled to skip it. Those were the terms upon moving in. After this interaction, TBH, I do want to stop paying them any extra rent though. Anyway, IDK, you let me know. Is she the entitled one or am I? 15. My stepdad demanded to use my phone for a week. When I was a teenager, my brother had gotten an iPhone 4 from my bio dad. It was still pretty new at the time. When my brother left home, he got himself a new phone and gave me the iPhone 4. But you see, my stepdad had this policy that none of his kids could have anything nicer than him. He had to have a nicer bed, nicer food, and a nicer phone. So one day, my stepdad broke his phone and ordered himself a new one. But the new one would take a week to get there. He needed something in the meantime. So, he went to the store, got a burner phone, took my phone, wiped it and made me use the burner phone for that week. When I got it back, this was before iCloud was as good as it is now, all my app data, photos and contacts were gone. And when I had the audacity to complain to him about it, he called me entitled, and it wasn't his problem. Whatever was on my phone was not as important as him having a better phone than me for a single week. Story 16. My entitled mom doesn't respect boundaries and wants to make important decisions for me. I really need to vent before I go crazy. I, 37F, live in my own apartment and pay all my bills on time. I feel like I'm financially responsible and I know how to save and manage my money. I'm currently working full-time Monday through Friday. I have enough to pay all my bills, but I thought about getting a side job on the weekends to work on my own schedule to have a little bit extra income. I made the terrible mistake of sharing this with my mom. I just started my new job last week and my mom knows it, and for some reason she's been sending me job listings and giving me ideas of jobs I should do even if I already found a job. I didn't ask her this and I don't understand why she's doing it. With a full-time job and a side job on weekends, I already have enough on my plate. I will barely have time to rest, do errands, do laundry and go grocery shopping. So why is my mom pushing me to work more when she knows I have 2 jobs already? Why does she feel entitled to my time and my life? I have told her that I don't need extra jobs, but she's stubborn and continues pestering me. It stresses me out so much because she makes me feel inadequate, like I don't do enough, and wants me to be a workaholic. I am self-sufficient, but my mom tells me what to do like she owes my life. I'm starting to believe that she's doing this on purpose to upset me. I've expressed that I feel stressed out and she ignores me and continues. A parent that respects their children's decisions doesn't act this way. Would you consider this normal? I don't know how to make her stop and leave me alone. Story 17. My mom is driving me crazy. So I'm about to lose my mind with my mom and I need some advice. My mom falls into the narcissist category. Typically, she's very easy to offend, likes to play victim, and enjoys stewing about things and waiting for me to pry it out of her. Big fan of the silent treatment growing up. Over the summer there was a whole incident where her and my dad suddenly decided they didn't like my boyfriend of 6 years because he's too quiet, and basically acted like victims and said that he is pulling me away from them, even though it was my own choice to take a step back from them because of how pushy they were with their own opinions. Well, fast forward, things are okay now. I was the bigger person and just forgave them and let God handle the rest. So far we can all be civil. I just have some boundaries set. For Christmas, they gave my boyfriend and I a gift card for a hotel room about an hour away in a cute little village. Same with my sister and her boyfriend. My sister and her man stayed first and had a great experience. The room was great, jacuzzi tub, fireplace, great dinner, X. Well, it was our turn this weekend and we chose the same hotel. It was filthy. Our room had stains on the bed, dirt and dust everywhere, and no tub even though we booked a room with one. So we chose to relocate hotels. I had called my mom to let her know the situation, and basically now she's extremely angry at me. She dodged all my texts and phone calls the day after the trip and then last night she finally answered my call. I said, "Are you mad at me?" And she said no and then basically just kept saying repeatedly, "Well, we are just disappointed that the hotel was shitty. My experience was good, and your sister's was too." Basically implying I was lying, even though I had sent her photos. Then she goes, "Did you guys even stay?" We did stay at a hotel local to us, and I wasn't gonna give her details so she could make me feel even worse. I just told her we stayed at a place close by to the other one. So overall it wasn't that deep for me. We chose another place with a tub, had a great night away and came home. We are now on day 2 and she's still mad at me. She's talking to me a little more but I just can't deal with the behavior anymore. Does anyone else have a mom like this? What do I do? Do you just ignore them until they contact you? Story 18. My mom has been refusing to take me to the doctor. So, it's been really cold in my state lately. Like, freezing, and my mom still makes me go outside and run for exercise, even when it's way too cold for that. Well, surprise, surprise. I ended up getting sick. And now, instead of taking me to the doctor, she's just ignoring it and acting like it's not a big deal. I'm tired, coughing, and just overall feeling awful, but she won't listen. She says things like, "The nearest urgent care is in insert city. That's at least $100 in gas." Like she hadn't gone to that city a few days prior to have dinner with my dad. Or she'll say, "It's not that serious. I'm not paying hundreds of dollars just for a little cold. Like I haven't been vomiting every now and then since I got sick." Or the most annoying one is when she says, "You're just doing this to skip volleyball practice." Like, why would I want to feel like this? Sure, practice is a bit draining, but I'd rather be a bit tired and sore than be as sick as I am now. It feels like she never wants to take care of me. She never takes me anywhere anymore unless she's getting paid by me or it's specifically for her. I don't know if I'm being spoiled or not. That's what she calls me when I tell her I don't like something that she did. It feels like she never apologizes, even when she's done something blatantly wrong. She only apologizes around family, when it makes her look good. I'm tired of all the yelling whenever I try to ask her about going. I don't know what to do right now. I'm just ready to pass out honestly. Story 19. My entitled mother is kicking me out, or so I think. If you've been following my story, you'll know that my family and I have been having a difficult time with each other, with my mother and her sister feeling entitled to how I run my life as an adult. I tried to stick around for my grandpa as he's seriously ill, but I just couldn't handle the fact that I still felt miserable there. The thought of my mother and her siblings backstabbing me with one another and saying things to my siblings gave me multiple anxiety attacks and really put me off going back home. Last time I went home, my youngest cousin told me his parents were extremely mad at me. I've had to endure their judgment my whole life and I hate it. Over the past 3 weeks, I've spent about 3 days at home. I've been working and staying with my partner in the meantime, as per the advice of this community. I've greatly enjoyed my time away, but I feel so guilty. Anyway, yesterday my mother sent me a text message basically saying to pack up my shit and clear my room out, leave it as a spare if I'm not staying in it. But why do I feel guilty? This is what I wanted, right? Why do I feel worried about being painted as the bad guy or as selfish? Why am I sad that she'd much rather tell me to clear my room out instead of letting me take my time to figure things out for myself? Is this a form of manipulation? I'm so scared to go back and collect my things tbh. I'm scared I won't hear the end of it. I'm scared I'll upset my family. I'm not sure how to handle it and it's making my chest hurt. I also don't want to take my partner with me to clean things up because that would escalate things, I think. I miss my family for sure, but I know that it'll never be the same because I called the BS out and they refused to change. I know they see me as selfish, as abandoning my younger siblings. My mother expects me to tell her where I am at night as a woman in her mid-20s. She expects me to tell her how much money I make and pay for everything in the house. It is social housing and she expects I pay her and not the housing corporation. And for my siblings, I spent $2,000 on their uniforms and school supplies already last week. My partner even helped with these costs as he loves my siblings, but my mother and her siblings treat him like he's nothing. I've detailed these things in previous posts. I've been much more stable lately. My relationship has been happier. My work life is thriving. I'm much more focused as there's no one yelling at me, each other. My mental health is great. I'm not thinking about hurting myself or thinking terrible things about myself. I've never felt like this before and it feels wonderful. Although I do have little anxious moments in my day, they're usually over in a minute. But the moment I think about home, I freeze up and feel as if my heart is going to give out. What do you think of the scenario? How do you suggest I handle this situation? Are my feelings valid and how do I look at them, handle them? Story 20. My entitled mother. So I was listening to old Mr. Redder's stories and one reminded me of a story about my entitled mom. So just before COVID hit Australia, I stayed at my parents' for about 3 weeks while I was on placement for university. I was visiting my parents, I was a guest. But still, I was expected to do chores. I had to ask to go out, etc. It was also a time when I started to realize she was narcissistic. I had booked my car in for a service at a family friend's garage, where she also worked. I had dropped by after placement to pay for it, and the family friend couldn't find the invoice or anything. I still paid it while I was there, but there had been times that she would just pay it and then I pay her back. I never saw the receipts. She was so angry when I told her I had already paid it. So I'm guessing she was pocketing some extra money. I would go stay with my then boyfriend, now ex, for a few days while I was visiting. I still had to ask her permission to go. I was 22, lived on my own 2 hours away, but wasn't allowed to do my own thing. Even when I was still living at home, I wasn't allowed any boy in my bed even when I was 19. My younger sister was though. There was one day I was catching up on some lectures and she came in and just yelled at me to put my laundry away. Apparently I was lazy and wasn't doing anything around the house. She had also just randomly messaged me while I was working, demanding where my house keys were, as she had to stay there as her friend was having surgery. If she had given me some warning and maybe just asked instead of demanded, it wouldn't have been an issue. But it was on the day just before she needed to go. She must have tried to find them but was unsuccessful. I ended up telling her as I didn't want to deal with it. But I guess she forgot I had cameras. I had locked my door to my bedroom and kept that key separate to the main house keys. I saw her on my cameras peering through a window into my bedroom. Don't know why she needed to get into my room. I had a bed in my spare room. Also did not see her friend with her at all. So I have no clue why she had to stay at my house. I ended up having to rush back to my house earlier as regional borders were being placed and I didn't want to get stuck. I haven't stayed at my parents since. I am also now have gone no contact with my entire immediate family. I've been a lot happier since. The memory is a bit foggy, so there is probably more stuff through those 3 weeks. It was very much hidden deep in the back of my head. If I remember anything more, I might update this story. Story 21. Please don't gaslight me over a coffee. I don't know if this counts as entitled, but I didn't know where else to post it. I asked my mom if we could go and grab food as I was craving a sandwich. She said we could and we could even grab coffee from the new place that opened in town. I was having a good day as I was talking to a friend, but then my mom wanted to ruin that. I was telling her some funny things and was just flat out ignoring me, so I stopped talking. We got our coffee and I was happy, because it's coffee. Mom, on the other hand, she started to complain that the iced coffee she ordered had too much ice. I asked calmly like, hey, can you not complain about a coffee please? It's something small. This happens a lot by the way. She'll get upset about small things, coffee, food, clothes. Even talks shit about people we see in public because of how they look. I've tried to talk to her about this and tell her she shouldn't insult people or make fun of them, or complain about simple things like an iced coffee having too much ice. After I asked her to just not do that this time, she started screaming. I just kept repeating my point, that she doesn't need to complain about something as small as coffee. She told me to leave her alone and then proceeded to continue complaining. I said I have asked her to please stop, that don't want to hear about it, and to please stop. She didn't like that. She started putting her anger into how she was driving and it low-key was scaring me. I told that she was putting her anger into her driving. She asked, "Do you want to get out?" It was raining and on the other side of town from home. I was tired of keeping quiet and told her that is one of the most toxic things to say to your child. She told me to leave her alone again and again proceeded to complain about the coffee. I was starting to get frustrated because of how many times I asked her to not. So I asked again. She told me I was yelling at her. Only one yelling was her. And I know that she needs to complain about things to get it out. I understand that, really I do. I complain about things sometimes too. But getting pissed over an iced coffee having too much ice? Please. I kept my voice quiet as I was doing the whole entire time and she said, "Oh, I'm just bad at everything," something close to that I don't remember word for word. I went off, not yelling or throwing out cuss words or anything, but just telling her how I felt and that what she's saying isn't okay. Telling her that she's trying to gaslight me and make me feel bad for asking her to not complain about something simple like coffee. She said that I was actually the one gaslighting her to make her feel bad about complaining. I said no, that I was just asking her to not complain about coffee. That a request like that should be hard to follow. I told her she was acting fine because she was trying to give me silent treatment after my request, even though she goes back talking shortly after. And told her she's acting like a Karen for getting mad over something so small. I know those weren't the nicest things to say, but I didn't know how else to tell her she's being toxic and it's affecting me. I even told her flat out that she's being toxic. That she's manipulating me and gaslighting me and I don't want it. She believes she's doing nothing wrong, that I'm the one being rude. But I am just trying to make her see that she's not being nice and it's affecting me. At the end she brought me not doing things into the conversation and I said this isn't about what I do or not do. She said that exactly, it's not about me and I need to mind my business. I'm so tired of this. I'm 18 and FTM going through a lot right now with mental issues from past abuse on top of dysphoria, so doing things is hard for me. She is 50 and has been working in therapy with the same therapist for 13 years. I'm 18. Yes, I'm legally an adult, but I'm still a kid. She's 50 and she acts like a child. It feels like I'm the adult in this and it's exhausting. It's making all of my issues worse. I can't get better with my therapy if she's adding on to the issues. Story 22. People are capable of change. Hi, I have never posted here before but I thought I'd give it a try. I have not had a relationship since January 2020. He made a choice that I wasn't good enough for him. He wouldn't look at or talk to me. I would walk into a room and he would walk out. After a year of living with that, I moved in full-time with my mom. She was never pushy about me talking to him and whatever. Summit 2023 we moved. I finally felt free and safe for the first time. I am transgender. I started hormones. I went to a school where people only knew me as me and not who I was before I came out. That's not that important to this, but I was happy. I have been happy. I started my senior year this year. I was on top of the clouds. My dad wasn't even a thought on my mind anymore. But the past few weeks, everything's changed. My mom got back with him. It made me angry. He was incredibly abusive growing up and he caused a lot of harm to me and my siblings and my mom. I have been very open about that anger, but I turn 18 in a few months. He'll be moving out this summer. I am trying to be respectful of my mom. But she keeps trying to convince me to let him back in, to accept his apology, that people are capable of change. But I am not the only one angry at them for this. So many people in my family are. I don't really know what to do. He can't just magically change after a few months of therapy. He was dragging my mom through hell with court. They've gotten back together twice before this. But the only boundaries I have for her were that she cannot have him over here, the place I live. She can go to his house, she can hang out with him. I don't care, but I want nothing to do with him. This is my safe space, but she has disrespected this once already and actively plans to again. We got into a fight about it today. She walked out in the middle of the fight saying, "People are capable of change." Well, it's been 5 years. I am finally happy. He completely missed out on my teenage years. He misses the idea of me and I don't miss him. I have grieved him as if he died because he wouldn't speak to me. Is it wrong that I don't want anything to do with him? I don't know what to do. Thanks for anyone who takes the time to read this. Story 23. My mom yelled at me because I was talking to my uncle. So, today I had orientation at my new job and me and my mom were going through my paperwork and she wanted me to set up the pay active so that way she has access to my money right away. Yes, I know this is wrong. It's not the focal point of this post. I then called my uncle to talk to him about this, and while I was talking to him, which I originally called him to ask him how he was doing after his surgery that he had, and I mentioned, for maybe 2 minutes, that my mom wasn't working and that she was supposed to get a shift tonight, and right after I said that, she tried barging in my room to start an argument with me. She told me to stop talking shit about her to my uncle when all I told him was that she didn't end up getting her shift tonight for work, and she now is on the phone with my other uncle talking shit about me, saying how I'm ungrateful and horrible things. She expects me to draw money out of my paycheck to help her pay for her bills whenever she sees fit, and I'm not allowed to question it. I know this isn't normal and I cannot handle this anymore from her. I plan to move out in the next 6 months or whenever the soonest my income verification is good enough to get approved for my own place. I honestly don't see that I did anything wrong, but she's treating me like I did the worst possible thing to her. Story 24. You know what's best for yourself. If someone tries to tell you, your parents know what's best for you, and you have experience enough to know that they don't, and that you know yourself better, don't listen to them. I hope this helps someone. Like if your parents keep getting mad about your grades, but you are managing them well enough and you also have other priorities like sports, or studying self-improvement or financial education, you know they don't know you as well as you know yourself. Lots of emotionally abusive parents will tell you they know what's best for you, and tell you that what you are doing, although perfectly fine, is wrong and unacceptable. At this point I just feel controlled. Context. I have to change so many of my beliefs about the world and myself because of my parents. Ones that are negative and have been parroted over and over again. Worst of all, they won't listen to me and understand my point of view, and they blame me for doing this to myself, not getting enough sleep, or for causing problems in the family by not understanding them. I am sick of understanding you and pretending it doesn't affect me. Every time I am yelled at for doing nothing wrong, it feels like I'm getting physically hurt, like a punch to the stomach that lingers in your chest. I recently came up with this saddening analogy. I literally will be happy and doing something like chores or eating dinner, and someone will say something bad. Stop making me feel like I'm not doing enough. Stop telling me to study when I'm 18 and have it under control. Stop telling me to go to bed and then waking me up too early in the morning. I hate it. I don't hate you, but I don't respect you either. Story 25. My friend's mother is more terrifying than mine. 2 days ago, I posted something here about my two-faced mother who basically could be a literal fucking wreck in terms of emotional abuse and such, planning to leave her and cut contacts if things get worse. And recently I've just been at school to continue my lessons and prepare to study for my IGCSEs. I have this friend who was raised in the UK but is a mix of Moroccan and Pakistani in terms of nationality, and we are literally two peas in a pod. We're in the same class, we get along nice and we help each other out regularly. I've heard lots and lots of her complaining about her mother, and at first I thought she was being just a tiny bit overreactive and hysterical, because those complaints are usually about her being scolded with a valid reason. I also stood to that thought after meeting her mother, who is sweet, and all three of us were able to strike an entertaining conversation that's positive and nice overall. Although I still had some suspicion about all of her complaints, since it's not good to judge a book by its cover, and so the ugly truth was uncovered. I came in today. In Islamic countries, the first day of the week is Sunday for work, school, so instead of hating Mondays it's Sundays for school, and my friend seemed deeply affected by something. We did get over it with a bunch of shitty jokes and laughs, but eventually I was greeted with her sadness. At the end of the school day, she seemed like she's been silently crying for a while after we prepared to return home sooner. We remained in the study area, and she had briefly mentioned her worries before, but this is how our conversation went. I hope everything goes well, friend name. Your mother would definitely understand if you give her enough valid information, and show her how hard you've worked for those grades at least. She won't, I'm telling you. She'll fucking give me hell just like this morning. Once our report cards come out for our mocks, I'll be fucking done and she'll just make everything worse. It couldn't be this bad, right? Well, it could be. She's going to fucking give me hell and I'll be scarred again. Wait, she beats you? Yeah, she does. Where? Everywhere she can possibly reach. She always goes physical and beats me. And to add the gasoline on the fire, this morning she was scolded and beaten horribly for getting a 5 55 to 60% in Edexcel, in a geography modular exam. Modular exams are hard, and they usually lower the passing grade so more students would not struggle with high grade expectations in school. And her mother simply complained about how she didn't study enough, or was reading fictional books too much. Sure, that may be the case for that, but it's a fucking modular exam. Things she hasn't learned may come up as well, and sometimes there are also simple things made 10 times more complicated to the point that one may not get the grade they imagined. And she even showed me a couple of bruises which hurt slightly. It looked horrible to see her hurt like this. Additionally, her mother also said that she would have to go more physical for this matter. Her mother loves to talk shit about her when she calls with her older sister, and mocks her negatively in their calls with her big mouth. She told me she overheard them calling and mocking her about it that morning. Another worst thing about her would be the fact that she would not repent about her problems. She yells and goes physical on day 1, would continue rambling about it on day 2 and gives my friend the silent treatment day 3, which made her incredibly uncomfortable because she constantly lives in guilt and feels mentally crushed by this. I know that my mother is strict and could be an asshole with those weird mood-related problems, but at least she is slowly improving bit by bit despite still being an asshole on other perspectives. At least she regrets her mistakes and fixes it in steps, and she does not beat me nor talk shit about me. At least not in front of others, or gets so goddamn pissed over exam grades and reports. Nonetheless, I feel bad for my friend, and I hope that she would not endure this ever again.